You saw the topic, you know what we're going to talk about, but I do want to mention that the trigger for today's video is a video that I saw recently. It's by a comedian named Minaj. In that video, he talks about how a reputed news outlet in the US ran a story on his acts and the performances that he's had and the stories that he's told, and how there was just structural racism going on in that entire episode. When I saw that video, it made me very sad, but it also reminded me of all the definitive and not so definitive vague experiences of racism that I've had as a brown immigrant in US and Canada. My experiences of facing racism negatively have been a little more in the US and lesser in Canada, but nonetheless, I've faced it in both countries. So in today's video, I just want to talk about what my experience has been, how I faced it, how early on I faced it in my life here, and what it's taught me. If you are an immigrant who's looking to move to any of these countries, or if you are somebody who's here and has faced racism of any sort, you might find this relatable or you might find this informative. So thank you so much for sticking around. Let's dive right into the topic. Hello and namaste, my name is Nidhi Nagori and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, thank you so much for stopping by. I am from India. I moved to the US first in 2016, in April 2016 precisely, and I got my first job and I started working in July 2016 for a big consulting company. A lot of people might not remember 2016, but I do vividly because it was the first time that I was leaving my home country and going to this completely foreign, unknown land. This was also a very crucial year for the US because a very controversial president got elected in that year. I don't want to name the president. I don't want to take any names as such on this channel of people that I don't have any strong opinions on. So this very controversial president got elected. Nobody was expecting the election to go that way. I think the elections were somewhere in October or November. It was definitely in the fall, probably November, early November was when the election results were coming out. So I started working in July 2016. For context, I was working in a consulting company, one of the biggest consulting companies in the world. It does come in the big eights. And I was working in their Cleveland office. I'd initially moved to Ohio, so I was working in Cleveland. Just for reference, I'm going to pull up a map of US here and we'll look at Cleveland right there. It's in the beautiful state of Ohio. So when I started working in July 2016, I was the only immigrant in my office. There was another guy from Nepal in the Cincinnati office, and I think that's it. We were the only two people from South Asia who were not born in the US, who were not US citizens. We did have other people who were, say, of Middle Eastern origin or of any other European origin or Russian, but we didn't have anyone from South Asia. So the early comments from my colleagues would generally be about how exotic I am, or they would be very impressed that I know English and how did I pick up English. I wouldn't count all of that in racism, but I did find it a little awkward. I did feel that they were very curious to know where I was from. None of that hurt me negatively. So when this president gets elected, when the results are playing out, I remember this so vividly. I remember my desk. I remember I'm on the computer. I'm very upset because we were hoping that this female candidate would win and she did not. And so when this guy got elected, I had a colleague who was Caucasian, and not gonna take any names. So she came by and she said, "Oh, did you see the news? We have a new president." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I just somehow thought that she would be sad that the female candidate did not win." So I remember telling her, "Yeah, I did see the news. It's all, despair now. I don't know how to even find hope." And she goes like, "Yeah, but you know what? I'm so happy because our president got elected, and I'm sure it's very worrisome for people like you and for people from your country because he will definitely force you guys to leave this country, or he will ask you to do blue-collared jobs. And if that's something that's worrying you, then you're right in your worry, because if I were you, I would be worried too." So I just looked at her very shocked and flabbergasted, and I still remember what she was wearing. I still can see the whole scene playing out in front of me. This is me just moved to a new country, 6 months of living there, and this is happening where somebody's saying that people like me and people from my country will be forced to leave or be forced to do. And she seemed very happy about it for some reason. And then she went on a rant about how immigrants come in and steal jobs that belong to Americans and that should not be happening. I think it was a 5, 10, 15-minute conversation. I cannot remember how long it went on for. I just remember her words of how I'll be thrown out of the country or I'll be forced to do a blue-collar job. To give you context, at that time, I was much more qualified than her to do the job that we were doing. But obviously it didn't matter. I had taken up an American job and I think it didn't sit right with her. So the conversation happened and at the end, she just left by saying, "All right, pack your bags, buttercup." I broke down and I started crying. That was actually the first moment that I knew that I cannot live in the US. So I went back home, I spoke to my husband. As immigrants on visa, you're always scared about losing your job. My company was filing my H-1B. This was all very important to me. So we decided, okay, I'm just gonna let it slide down. You know, one person, one incident, doesn't matter. So I never discussed about it with the HR, never raised any alarms, nothing. Now keep in mind that this was my colleague who was one level junior to me. I was a senior associate, she was just an associate. Even then I couldn't speak up for myself and I hate it because the next time it happened, it was the very same firm, except that this time the person who was being racist towards me was one of the partners at the firm. Now she was one of the partners who wasn't particularly well liked. I again will not take any names. Let's just say that everybody disliked her to the point that when I finally quit the organization, my supervisor told me, "Is it because of XYZ?" Like even she knew without anyone saying anything, everybody knew that it was because of that particular partner. So this partner would say a lot of wild things, which I obviously ignored. But in terms of direct racism, I remember this one time I was photocopying or doing something on a computer or sending an email, something. First of all, she never trusted my work. So let's start there. Even if I had sent her email, she would say, no, you didn't send me anything, or no, you definitely didn't work. Like she would check my hours. We had to fill timesheets. So she would really be behind my back. So one time we were discussing something related to work and suddenly she goes like, "So Nidhi, why did you move to the US?" And I was like, well, my husband is a doctor here, so that's why I moved to be with family. And she goes like, no, you have to tell me the right reason. And she went on about how people from my country, people like me, will have multiple kids who will have US citizenship. So we will have many ways of getting into the US. And I think when she said that to me, I was just so shocked again. This time I did have the guts to say, well, it's very unfortunate that my husband trains here, saves people in this country, saves American citizens, and this is what I get in return. And I sincerely hope that if you have to ever land up in his hospital, you better not be in his care or in any migrant doctor's care. When she was like, why would you say that? I said no, because people who think like you don't deserve the care that migrant doctors offer. To me, that was very telling of what I want in my career. And so the next organization that I joined in the US, I knew very well that it has to be a diverse organization. At least my team has to be diverse. I knew that Cleveland cannot give me the diversity that I really need, but I knew that my team had to be diverse. So I joined a team that was led by an African-American guy. It had a lot of other African-American people. It had a couple of Mexican colleagues. I had people from all over the world. Didn't have any South Asians at all in my team, but had a lot of other ethnicities. And that's what was important to me. At least after that, I didn't face any racism at work. Now coming to Canada, I haven't faced anything in GTA. GTA is the Greater Toronto area where I live, which is extremely diverse. I say this extremely, like huge stress on extremely. I have never ever felt singled out here. I feel like the job opportunities, the people, everything is so welcoming and so open. And I'm sure there are people who faced instances here, but it hasn't happened with me. The only time it happened with me was in Quebec City. So it was 4 of us, we'd gone to Quebec, and when we reached Quebec City, we booked an Airbnb. For all that happened in that incident, I just want you to know that I still have a terrible review written for him, and he also has a very bad review written. I filed a complaint with Airbnb accusing him of racism. We had a big fight. So here's what happened. We checked into the Airbnb and we noticed that one of the furniture pieces, like the bed, a part of the bed was broken. So I immediately took pictures of it and I sent to the guy. Now keep in mind that when we were checking in, we were taking codes from him, etc. So he knew exactly when we checked in. When we check in and we go into the room and we see the furniture piece, a couple of minutes right after we check in, we sent him the pictures. So first of all, I got on a call with him and he comes in and he says, well, did you jump on the bed? And I said, why do you think I do that? I'm an adult. I will not jump on any beds. And he said, no, because people from your country do that. They are not civilized and they jump on beds and they break it. So I was like, that's not true. I literally checked in just now. How do you think it can even happen? So we were 4 people, me, my husband, and 2 friends of ours. And we were like, how the hell is this guy even talking to us like this? And he comes in and he calls his cleaning lady. Cleaning lady's like, no, I didn't notice anything. Then he calls the previous guest, and all of this is happening in French. So I can understand that he's talking in French. I don't know what he's talking about, but I do know that he's using French. So he speaks to the guest who checked out before us. And he tells me, I've spoken to the guests and they said they have not broken the bed, so it must be you. So I was like, so you spoke to them and you are so confident that they did not break the bed. And here I am, who's checked in literally a few minutes ago, and I'm the one who's sending you pictures, I'm the one who's calling you, and the bed was really broken, like it couldn't have happened in a few minutes. But even then, you have the audacity to come in and say that people from my country jump on beds and break it. And you trust your previous guest so much that you're literally talking to them on phone and you're like, yeah, I've spoken to them, they haven't broken the bed, so it has to be you. And you're obviously bringing my country, my race into question. So it has to be racism. So at that point, we got Airbnb involved. Obviously, it's a corporate. They don't care about anyone. Nothing happened except that I left a bad review. They went through their entire investigation, including talking to us and this guy saying all of this on record. And even then, Airbnb investigation said that nothing like that happened. So let's leave it at that. My Airbnb profile is still bad because of this one incident. In my review for the guy, I did leave all the details of the incident, and he also reviewed me badly, but I refuse to take that review down because it is what it is. I faced what I faced and I'm not gonna shut up. I will not make the mistake that I made in the US, especially when I'm the one paying for staying in a place. Just want to say that the rest of the stay at the Airbnb was fine, but this one incident really killed the trip. So these are my 3 definitive incidents in the last 7 years of being here. These are incidents that I'll always remember. I'm sure offhanded incidents have happened here and there, but they've not left a scar on me. And if you're wondering why am I still here, the pros of living in Canada have outweighed the cons for me by a significant margin. If you are wondering what my pros are, let me know in the comments and I will make a separate video about it. If you want to know what are my reasons for living in Canada, I'm happy to explain. I'm happy to sit down and talk to you about this. But this is a regular Nidhi Nagori video. I have to leave you with some data. Sorry for this weird angle. The light is dimming. It's almost 6. And I'm not great with shooting at the right times, but I had to make some adjustments to make sure that I can continue to shoot. Just gonna leave you with a little bit of a statistics. I was looking at the Stat Canada data, and about 22% South Asians feel discriminated against. This data is from 2019. Gonna pop the screenshot here for you. And I was very surprised to see that Black Canadians and Asian Canadians face more racism or identify being discriminated against more than us. At the end, I just want to say that racism is very real. I've faced it a couple of times in my 7 years of living here. And while my pros outweigh the cons of being here, I know that this is probably not for everyone. So if you want me to make a video about my pros, let me know in the comments below and I will definitely do that. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and if you want to know anything about life as a migrant, please let me know in the comments below. Happy to make a video on anything and everything that you like. Thank you so much for stopping by today's video. Of course, I hope that you like, share, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. And until we meet again, please take care of yourself. Stay safe. Namaste.